Oh, well, now, everyone, it is my honor to introduce our guest for the week, former Smoky Mountain Wrestling Champion, current trainer at the FTC Art of Grappling School in Ohio, Bobby Blaze. Bobby, I cannot believe you're on the podcast. Welcome.
Hey, man, thanks for having me on there. It's a real pleasure. I know we had a little bit of a to get ready to get started tonight, but we're here and we're going to have a good podcast. It's a pleasure speaking with you, and thanks again for the opportunity to be on this podcast.
No, we appreciate you coming on. Now, we had Brox Boulder on a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling stories on you. Uh, but
Oh, Lord, I tell what he told.
So I told
Yeah.
Brox, I said, I told Brox I found an article where you had made a comment that after a couple of years, I guess, of Brox being there, that Brox had become like your leader, that he had sort of taken over and helped guys get where they're going and things like that. And I asked Brox how that came about, and he said it came about from you kicking him out of the ring.
Well, yes, that's true. It's been, going on 5 years now. And what happened was I just saw potential in him. I saw the other students. Uh, uh, he was just following his example, and then he would have good days and bad days, whether he was on or off. And of course, you're new to something, and you're trying to learn. And uh, I just saw something in him, and I thought he wasn't giving his best. And so we was doing a drill or something, and I just, I used some really coarse language to get out, know.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked out really good because I told him I want to speak to a man to man. And at the time, we had a lot of young students, and we had a couple female students, and I just told him, I said, look here, because he was, I'm sure he told you he was about 37, 38 years old at the time. And not giving away his age, but just letting you know that was his approach. And I said, man, you got it right here. And I said, these young people are looking up to you. I said, but you got to understand, I can't talk to you like I can one of these young little 18-year-old cheerleaders or band members. And then I said, we got a couple amateur wrestlers. I got kids their age that I've trained, in wrestling, amateur style and shoot style. And I was like, I talk to them different. I said, I'm just trying to communicate to you man to man. And once we had that talk and he understood that's where I was coming from. I wasn't trying to butt heads with them or anything or be disrespectful. What I was trying to do is, look, man, these kids are looking up to you. Either step up or step out or whatever. Man, he just stepped up. And we just had a good heart to heart, conversation about it. And through the years, of course, he's earned my respect. And now, he's the right hand man right over here for the training facility at the Art of Grappling arena we have now. We've just opened up a new 5,000 square foot space. I think he probably told you that. And we've got our first student show here April the 5th, but we've got a big show coming this Sunday here for another Appalachian Mountain Wrestling is coming in to the facility. So we've got a lot of great things going on, but a lot of that goes back to Brox and getting. We went from a long time ago. Joe Pace, the owner of FTC, and he started it. We went from a backyard to a garage that was cold as a whore's heart in the winter and hot in the summer. And then we moved to the building we're in now, which we were below here. And we're upstairs now, as I like to say. But we've got a big, nice place, and we're going to try to make the most of it. And hopefully we'll get Brox and get a few other people like him and a few other people that's been here for quite a while now learning. And Brox also gets out there and hustles for helping these young people get bookings too, and that's a good thing. And I told them early on, there are several people I'm still connected with in professional wrestling, and I said, but you guys are the ones out there on the road. You guys are the ones getting bookings and meeting promoters. And I try to tell them out how to be a professional. I'm not just teaching you how to do the moves and where to put the moves in. I'm trying to teach you the entire art of pro wrestling, and that's a part of it's being a professional. Going to a locker room, getting a booking, going to a locker room, shaking everyone's hand. You'll be respectful of this business, the business I love so much.
Right, right. And
So
we were talking when we were talking to Brox, he was talking about how important riding the road still is. These guys jump in a van and they still learn from
yeah,
each other, and that's still a really important part of this whole process.
yeah. Brox will tell you he probably learned a lot from me riding up and down the streets. We've had a couple trips, to North Carolina, a couple up in Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, and I'm really selective on who I ride with or drive with. My nerves really take so much, but Brock's one of the guys I like to be with, and he's a good driver. And so I'm like, and I just tell him stories, and talk to him about what took place at this show or how this match could have been better or why that match was really good. Just different road stories, man. And then they get in, they've been going to Indianapolis, they've been going to Louisville area, all across the Huntington, Ashland, tri-state area here. So, I'm happy and proud of all of them, man. And I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There was one time I think that pro wrestling was on its deathbed, and just seemed like all of a sudden it got off the machine, kicked open the doors, and said, "Hey, independent professional wrestling is back." And I think since COVID, it's a lot better, a lot more. Options out there for people going to wrestle, and I love that. I love to see these young people getting the opportunity. I love to see the older guys like myself having the opportunity at these fan fest and things like that. So I'm hoping pro wrestling is back and here to stay again. Seems
Yeah.
like it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, no, and that's it's crazy. I mean, I was wondering if did the COVID, coming out of the COVID, did you guys get a boost from that? Did you guys grow out of that?
Well, what happened was, first of all, I'd had some other issues prior to COVID, and I had been sick earlier that year of 2020. But on a personal matter, I was just, when COVID came and they said, you're staying at home. Well, the longer I sat there, the more I thought about, I've got this TV, I've all these streaming services. I got a couch and a chair, and nothing's happening here. And I said, so when this is lifted or whenever I can get back out, I said, I'm going to do something with my life that once again, that I love and care about, and that was pro wrestling. And I want to give something back to professional wrestling. So to answer your question, I knew this was going to start the FTC Art of Grappling School, but it got pushed back a little bit, and I wasn't here that day one. I was in communication and stuff, and I came in about this time of year, 5 years ago, I guess, about the first week of March or so, and I've just seen it grow. I think people just got pissed off about being at home. I think pro wrestling fans were just like, you know what? If there's a show, we're going to go. Kind of like that thing in Wayne's World. If you build it, they'll come or whatever. Maybe that's Field of Dreams. I don't know what it is. One of them,
Yep.
one of those movies. I got them mixed up, but you know what I'm saying. So I think it. That's such a dark time anyway. But for me, I'm gonna pay it forward, man. I'm giving back to this business one way or the other. And first chance I got to come back over here, I did. Like I said, over to the old place. That's just my opinion. I think, like I said, it kind of, like everyone else, just kind of said, I've had about enough of this. And for some reason, pro wrestling fans have started, coming back to the matches again, which most of the shows I go to, and I had been going to shows every once in a while prior to COVID. I'd go to the 2 monthly shows and I'd balance them out. So I'd get out at least once a month and keep get to see something I love, but I wasn't involved like I, wanted to be. And I've always been helping and teaching and coaching. But when that opportunity come along, and again, with the ban lifted and things like that, I think people today just die to get out of the house, do anything. And if you're a wrestling fan, people that promotion just started popping up. Some not so good, but there's a lot that's really good. And I'm happy for that. And it gives these young guys and girls an opportunity to get out and wrestle on the weekends. And like I said, it gives some of the old timers a chance to get out and do some autograph signings and fan fest and things like that. So I think pro wrestling in a pretty good shape right now where it's at.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. I had a question for you. So you got to work with Jillian Hall here at the school too, right?
yes. She and I was starting together, and she came back in and when I think they opened up on December 1st, and I wasn't ready to come back then. And the other thing I remember about that date was it was the coldest day in the tri-state area. Sorry, December, it's dark. I'm like, my ass is not going anywhere. I told Joe I will be there. It's just a matter of time. In fact, so then what happened was Jillian got invited to the Royal Rumble that year and was going to go to Florida and stay for a couple of weeks. And Joe asked me, because I was going to come back even later, wait for her to get back. And he hated to, not have the students a place to train for a couple of weeks. And he knew I was just about ready to come back. And so, yeah, Jillian was, man, I'll tell you this, have a lot of respect for what she done with some of these young students, because by the time I got here, some of them were really ready. Some of them had their first match. But I needed to do things my way and see things tightened up some and this and that. But she had done a tremendous job. And, she stayed on for several more months after that. Then she had to take care of some personal issues, just like we all do sometimes. Anyway, she got the students really ready. She had them on a good conditioning program. She had them in the ring trying to learn psychology. And that's where I came in right when some of these earlier students were just now learning about the psychology of the ring. And yeah, you can do a suplex, but why do it in the first 2 minutes of a match, or, this and that. And then her style, she had a system style. And that's not a dig towards any system. It's just the way she was teaching them and bringing them along. Mine was I got trained by great Professor Boris Malenko in Tampa, Florida, and I had been all over the world. So I saw many different styles. And I knew the Malenko way you do it, just the way we did it. And so it has a method to the madness, if you will. But I was given a worldwide perspective. I can give you this from Japan. I can give you some psychology that was different in Canada. I'd been to South Africa and I've been in a riot, So I had a lot of experiences, and I'd been all over the U.S. Plus Cornette, Jimmy Cornette, I'm a Cornette guy. And I was there for 3 years with Jimmy. How can I learn something about professional wrestling and not, being around Jim Cornette like that? And, once I got started there, he invited me into the production meetings. I had sheets. I'd done promos. He said, Bobby, try this. Matter of fact, I saw Jimmy out promoting the Queen of the Ring the other day in Louisville on one of the podcasts on my YouTube. And he was like, hey, wrestling fans. And I start on my promos. I go, hey, wrestling fans, like that or something. Or I go, hey, pro wrestling fans. Then at the end, I close it out with, see you at the matches, fans. And I saw so much. I was like, Bobby, Jim Cornette, you basically are stealing his opening every time, because he gave it to you like that. We all borrow from people. So I know where I got my opening lines at. Is Jimmy saying, Bobby, this is where we're at. Do this. Invite them to the matches, in Ashland, Kentucky, and we'll be there, March the 12th or whatever. And here you go. So that's the way I do my promos now. And that's the way I teach them to do here. But yeah, Jillian was a big part of this school at the very beginning, and I'm really proud of what she had done and helped some of these young students out. And I wish her, life's best. I don't know what she's doing nowadays, but whatever she's doing, I'm sure she's good at it, because I'd like to see her start making appearances again and getting back out there to the public eye. But that's her business. I don't, I just mind my own damn business, So, but I wish her luck. I wish the students that have moved on luck. We've had people come and go. We've had a lot of people through here. Brock could probably tell you. One day they show up one day and they don't come back. Oh, this is what I always want to do. I want to be a wrestler. And they show up one time, they go through our warm-up drill, and they just don't come back. And
wow.
We've got a very good warm-up drill we do. We spend about 15 to 20 minutes, sometimes 30 on conditioning. And as the great Carl Gotch and Professor Boris Malenko both said, conditioning is your best hold in wrestling. That's the best hold you can have. Of course, there's another hold called a pencil hold, and you don't want to be under that either. A good booker now, you're all right, but you get under that booker skin, that pencil, you start losing, and you're out of the territory.
So you said a pencil can hold you down, huh, Bobby?
Yeah, the pins and D's matter in a sword, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, but yeah, the conditioning part, we do that. And but anyway, we've had a lot of good students through here, and we've got people that still come, veterans. John Cosper, the author out of Louisville, Kentucky area, he come down. He's getting ready to do another book on wrestling schools, and he spent a day with us. And we had several guys scheduled before John was scheduled to come to town that are veterans that were just coming. They were getting ready to go enter a tag team tournament down in Tennessee for the school of Morton. They came to us for about 3 weeks before they actually went to the tag matches, and we really just tightened up their work. And they got to work with Brox and Titan Troy, another good, outstanding athlete here, and a good wrestler, amateur and pro style. And they really tightened those guys' work up. I'm here to help from beginning to advanced students, and I'm just proud to be a part of something that's so far has been very positive for these young people and we've got people from 18 years old to 35, 40 years old, males and females. I've got former cheerleaders, a majorette. We've got former high school wrestlers, high school football players, and just a couple of really good athletes. And we've got some people it's just a fan, and bless their heart, you know what? They'd be better off being a fan. But when they do come and they do train and they try hard, they might just go on a show. It might be a referee, might be a manager, and then they might eventually have a match depending on their determination and desire. But we train them from top to bottom, in the door, and I stay in touch with so many of them. And I've got people I've trained years and years ago that still, keep in touch with me through the business, and I love them for that. I love the respect that comes with that when you're out here showing these young people. I have a gentleman by the name of Shane Storm from up here in West Virginia. And I started training him with a 17-year-old kid. And I gave him his first match right when he turned 18 over in Kentucky many, many years ago. And some of that group, they're still out there working, 35 years old and got all that experience now. They're good, so I'm proud of them.
Yeah. You were mentioning all the people that you
That's
had there,
awesome.
like the former high school athletes and former whatever. Word is you got a lifeguard there too.
Man, hold on. We got an up and comer, Ross Burton, man. He's 19. He's been here this summer will be 2 years, so a little bit about 18, 19 months. What an athlete, man. In high school, he played some football and basketball, and he ran track and field. Now the only thing he's doing is wrestling, and he's getting ready. Well, he started already his senior year of track and field. He's a pole vaulter. Ooh. And hopefully this year he's going to break his own personal records. He went to state last year, and he's already actually went to a couple indoor meets. But yeah, the lifeguard, man, he got a hell of a funny gimmick. He's a good kid, good-hearted kid, good-natured. And since he started here, I had the pleasure. We did a show in his hometown over in Kentucky, in a little small town called Raceland, Kentucky. And they got a very good school system, small community. And we did a fundraiser for the girls softball team, I believe it was. Anyway, his dad came up to me after a match, and he had told Brox this too. But he said, "Man, can I speak to you?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he told me who he was. And he said, "I just want you to know," he said, "before Ross started coming to you guys," he said, he's just an average student, may or may not do his homework, may or may not do, I guess whatever he learned when he was during the COVID thing, that study at home, how do you do that and stuff. And he said, man, he's getting straight A's. He said he's working at, which we had to try to push him to work out. If anything right now, he's thin, but he's going to fill out really good. He's got good, shoulder girth, and that just build up some muscle on it. But he's improved socially so much, man. Instead of talking down here and mumbling, he can look me in the eye. I talk to him, I speak to him, I shake his hand like a man, and I'm helping him, mature as a athlete and as a student athlete, and as a young man. The lifeguard, be able to look out for the lifeguard.
Lifeguard Ross made sorry, Bob. Lifeguard Ross made a surprise appearance when we were talking to Brock. So he was the hit of the interview.
Oh,
man.
Yeah, okay. Oh, I can believe that.
Oh man, yeah. So
I don't know. I don't think he's here yet.
I was going to ask you. So
I was going to say I don't think he's here yet. I don't hear you.
Oh, sorry. I think we got a delay. I always get on the delay.
The delay there.
I was going to ask you about Sarah Bubbles. So before we got on here, Sarah Bubbles was helping us out, John, getting Bobby set up, and she's your Art of Grappling Women's Champion. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. We've had some really good female wrestlers come through here. I'll be honest about that. We've got about 3 or 4 girls who's kind of moved on and have done really well. Sarah had the pleasure, when Jillian was still here, so she got a little bit of both of us, at the beginning of her training. And here's a young person that She didn't know who the hell I was. She didn't know who Jillian Hall was. She didn't know what wrestling. She didn't know anything about pro wrestling. She was just come here and lose some weight. And she's come so far, and just also behind the scenes, she's helped a lot too. She's helped some things out with the school and little things like help setting up this interview, because normally I'd have been this part of it, because I've been home ready to go, and we had some delays, and we're working on a studio over here at the school in this new space. And so but Sarah, she's caught on to the understanding the wrestling. She can do all the moves and this and that, but for her, she understands the psychology, and she's understanding part of a storyline. And like I tell these students, for 2 hours, a couple of days, 3 days a week, you can come here. Don't worry about anything. You come here to learn to wrestle. Don't worry about your kids. Don't worry about your bills. Don't worry about this and that. Come here, get some exercise in, free your mind, your ass will follow kind of thing. Get in here and take some bumps, work on your persona, work on your character development. And she's really done that. And again, that's to her advantage, because and there's only a few females in this area, but we got a handful of really good ones. And hopefully she can continue to with her career started grappling. Yeah, she's the first female champion we've had. They've got a real nice belt, and they've built that up, and hopefully they'll build that division up even more. We're hoping more people from other, promotions want to come in and challenge her for that title. That's a Brock's thing or a Joe Pace thing. I just do the training, and of course, if I see the opportunity, when I speak to other girls that I've seen on shows and things, I'm always like, hey, who you wrestling with? Who's good? Who's coming to the area? There's some girls that come out of Pittsburgh. They've been pretty good. Had proper training. They're young, and a couple of girls from North Carolina's come up. We've got a girl that comes from Cincinnati. But it just takes time. The person that comes 2 days a week, 3 days a week, obviously they're getting bookings on the side. Their career can go a little bit more advanced. And again, Becky with her and Brock, there's a little storyline going. So with her character, the Sarah Bubbles character, like my son told me, I'm with him on this one, or maybe it's my brother. If I ever hear that damn girls just want to have fun one more time, that's what she comes out to. And I'll listen to our Bodie station, they play it, and I'll be like, if I hear that old time rock and roll one more time, and if I hear Double Vision, I know all these people's music from, the Batten Twins used to be Double Vision and old time rock and roll, the Rock and Roll Express. And I'd hear, different. I hear Tom Petty, Don't Back Down. I turn it up, me and my brother, we've got an agreement. Do not turn off Tom Petty when he comes on the oldies. But when that damn girls want to have fun, like that's Sarah, I change that channel.
It breaks my heart watching wrestling nowadays without all those, like, you go back and watch all the old shows now, they've dubbed over all that cool music with crappy music, and the energy is completely gone from it.
Right. You see people sitting there like this, like, what are you supposed to do? That's the beauty of independence, man. They'll still put some music out there that may be copyrighted. I don't know nothing about it, but they'll play it,
Yeah. You mentioned earlier you were talking about the pencil.
Go ahead. Yes, I don't know.
I was
just going to say, I think a lot of YouTube.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You go ahead. You're the storyteller.
No, I was just going to say, I think a lot of independent shows still use music that's not an infringement on copyrights or anything. You know what I'm saying? And I think the fans appreciate that. And I've seen so many guys that in rock and roll and rap and stuff that love wrestling. So I think they'd pop for it too. So I'm not
I agree with
on
you, Bobby.
TV or running past your time on YouTube, and I'm just talking about it. At an independent house show, they say, you know what, boom, Blazing Glory, or I Won't Back Down, or Free Bird. You're like, yeah, hey man, they're out there,
Yeah. I was going to ask you though a second ago. You mentioned being under the pencil hold. Who, if you're able to tell me, who's got the pencil at FTC? Is that you?
Oh, hell no, man. I just do the coaching and training. Sometimes, no, they ask my opinion. They run stuff by me all the time, which I appreciate, respect. But I guess Brox and Joe really, they book the shows, they promote the shows, and I help it out any way I can. But my thing is just because I've been there when I was younger. I've ran shows. Prior to going to Smoky Mountain. They were very small independent mud shows, if you will. But after Smoky Mountain and in between WCW, I ran shows. After WCW, I ran shows. I've had my running and promoting shows and things like that. I'll lend my knowledge to them, and I'll see someone training hard, and I hear someone this and that, and I'll say, you put them two together, or what about this finish? I'd give a lot of finishes. I help people with a lot of finishes. I do like that part. Joe still comes to me and says, Bobby, what's a good finish for this match with the heel over, face over? Brock runs the card by me. So what do you think about this? So I have my input, but they have the pencil, man. And I don't mind it, because I do my own creative as well. If I'm going to be a part of a show, I'm the acting role of on behalf of the athletic commission. I'm here, and we're going to keep things in line, or I'm going to sanctify this, tag team title match. The titles aren't aligned. Right. I have an authority type figure that at least someone they had the answer to someone in the locker room, and it also helps make sense for the show, the flow of the show. Well, why did that happen, or this and that? And I can come out and say, well, here's why. So we'll have a tag team tournament, or this is what we're going to do, or whatever. But it's always in the best interest of the organization. The FTC, or this week will be AMW, wherever I happen to be at, off, whatever. Just lending my knowledge, if you will, my input to my character, my storyline only. If someone asks, I'll live it. But for me, I just part of the write up. Appreciate the opportunities and doing personal appearances and this stuff. I do me, I'm just me. So it's all I've ever known for a long time.
Well, and that's what we love about you.
Yeah, thank you.
Someone told me about you guys going down to WrestleCade a couple years ago. And I think you guys might have been there the same year I was there. I must have missed you.
Okay.
Well, WrestleCade's a blast, man. And I guess a lot of these signings are.
Yes, I love WrestleCade. I got invited. I was going to go to the first one way back when. And they were offering tables for like $500, and the gentleman got a hold of me. He's working with Tracy at the time, and he gave me a table for like $150. And I asked and I wanted to come down, but I wasn't really traveling. I was having some nerve issues, and I really hadn't been doing any appearances. And he called me up and he said, Bobby, we can get rid of that table for $500. You care if I just mail your check back? And it was Tim Blaze who it was, and he was working for Tracy Myers some then. And I was like, oh, that's a relief. No, thanks, And anyway, I ended up not going. But the third WrestleCade, they got a hold of me because they did the Smoky Mountain, what was it called? They had a board. I'm drawing a blank. The Smoky. They did with VCW too. Shoot,
the panel or
help
whatever.
Me out here. Panel. We did a big Sunday morning. It's the guest. I am drawing a blank, but anyway, I went Smoky Mountain Tribute, I guess.
Okay.
It was Ricky Morton and Tracy and me and Dutch and Jimmy Cornette and a couple other people. Had a good panel there, and Smoky Mountain Experience, I guess is what it was called or whatever. Okay. And I enjoyed that whole weekend. And excuse me, of course, I didn't go back the next one, but COVID comes around, and I guess some things happened. So the first chance I got to go back just a couple of years ago, Brox and I and Joe and a couple other students, man, we loaded up a van and hit the road. And I think WrestleCade is one of the most funnest times I ever have, even now. I didn't go this year. I went 2 years ago. Again, I went down with Sue Young. She and I were together at the table, and I love Sue a lot. She's a dear friend. Awesome. And, she is awesome and a hell of a worker. And she's doing pretty good, and I'm happy for her because she had some surgery, as you may or might not know. She got injured, and she's on the mend now. Here comes Brox here to bust up the interview. He's probably going to say something about that first trip he went to North Carolina with me. I took a drink of beer. Here, Brox, now.
Oh, it's a Brox running.
I'm this guy. I got to let him know. Just in case, hey, that's Nyla Rose. That's Nyla Rose. That's my job.
What's going on, Brox?
How's it going, buddy? All right?
Oh, no.
Go good, brother. Go good.
Hey, guys, you got a minute? Happy birthday, Brox.
Oh, that's right.
Oh, shoot.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, brother.
I wish.
39
again.
again.
Doesn't look a day over 29. What are you talking about?
I was going to say it, but y'all know better of him. So, yeah. Happy birthday.
Hey, man, he's trying to catch up to the rest of us, man. What's going on? You better stop that stuff.
Yeah.
Hey, I got to see Brox and Titan Troy actually in the ring the other night, so that was fun.
Awesome.
What's that?
I said I got to see Brox and Titan Troy actually wrestle the other night. That was awesome.
Good.
Thank you.
Good
yeah,
deal.
those guys are fantastic.
They're a good tag team.
They really are, man.
Yeah,
and
Grappling Inc.
I need to know what's the name of that damn monkey flip sequence move or whatever y'all do. I had no idea how to describe it.
Monkey flip senton.
Monkey flip senton. Got it.
like I told you when I was on the show, what's old is new, and what's new is even better.
I love it.
I like it. I've never heard something like that at.
Yeah, John, he was telling me about that. He was telling us about that move and how Devon, I think, was helping him with it. And then I saw it the other night, and I'm like, I guarantee you that's the move, but I had no idea what it was. It happened so fast. They're really good. They're really good.
I think you sent me a clip of it. It was awesome.
Yeah, they've got some good stuff, and the early on they started putting stuff together, and my brother and I, my son and I, they watched a lot of stuff I've sent them, and I said, what do you think about this? And this just stuff that I've seen the Malenko's do or other teams do, and I brought it back, and Troy and Brox won the tag, and they just started putting stuff together. It made sense, and I told them that's the main thing. And again, if people haven't seen something for 30 years, they have never seen it before, it's new to them, and I'm proud about it, and that's where he gets that out. And I heard of him, Gotcha Malenko, what's old is new and what's new is old, and that's ingrained in your mind and your training. It's true, if I showed Brox, just using him as an example, I showed him a Japanese body slam that Dean Malenko showed me, and also a Japanese arm drag. And he had never seen, even heard of it. And I said, this is going to be what you can do. He gave it to me. I'm giving it to you. You can use this. And then I showed Titan Troy, that Northern Lights. I said, here's what you can do. You can really do it this way. And he honored me by, taking that as a finisher at one point. And so it goes back to giving back, man. Everything good that's happened to me is a direct result of me helping someone else out. And that's in life too, honestly. I got my life as a work shirt on, but that's the way it is to me. Is like life is love, man. If you get out there and just, I try to give back every day. That's what I'm doing. That's what I say. So I'm glad to do that. When you see someone do that in their match and do it to perfection, that's what I like to. I tell these guys a lot of time, if I go to a show and I'm not a part of that match, I don't want to know the finish. I want to enjoy it, and let the fan in me a little bit do that. But if I do know the finish, or I've helped call the finish, I want you to pop me. I want you to do it to perfection. I want to see how well you execute the finish. And then, I've had people come back and one tag team match, triple threat match, and it was between these girls, and I told them to be in this one area specifically. One girl drifted down toward the finish, and it took everyone's focus to two different parts of the ring, one on one side, one on the other. Well, this girl, she'd only seen wrestling on TV. And I said, well, here's why. Let me explain it to you. I said, because now you got half the crowd watching these two girls, and you're way down here. There's no breakaway cameras. There's no announcers telling them, watch this. I said, so what you got to do in a house show is this. If you'd have stayed where I told you to in that corner, everyone's watching all three of you at the same time. Oh, and it's like a light bulb went off in her head. Yes, you're right. I see why. But she's only watched TV from the time she's a young girl, and that's all she's been brought up on, So, but I explained that to her, and I explained it to the other two girls involved as well. This is why I specifically said go to this corner, do it this way. So I want to see that finish executed is what I was getting at, especially if I had a part of it, I want you to pop me, because if you can do that, I know you can pop all them fans out there. And that's what it's all about, They spend their hard-earned dollars to buy one of these, metal chairs, sit ringside or sit in the bleachers. There's people out here in this world, wherever they work out, whatever their job is, and they're busting their ass, and they got a paycheck at the end of that week or 2 weeks or however they get paid, and they've taken part of their money. Luckily, maybe they have, rent money, grocery money, gas money, whatever it is for utilities, whatever, but they've taken part of that hard-earned money and said, this is how I'm going to spend my dollar. I'm going to go and watch professional wrestling. And I want, when I am a part of it, or I'm at that show or see that with all these fans, I want them to get their dollar's worth, you know. And that's why I try to tell these students, I tell them at least once a month is people's coming to see you perform. They want to see wrestling, give them their money's worth, man. I know when I was up in Canada, my first territory, you know, it's $8 for a folding chair and you know, ringside. And I just knew from my work ethic and this and that, those people, you know, they were hockey fans, they were fishermen. I was up, you know, it was territorial up there, it was summertime. So they fished and made their money during that time because the winters are harsh up on the Northeast Atlantic coast, you know. And we had weekly towns. Every week these people was coming, 400 and 500 people a week back then. And they wanted some kind of entertainment. Oh, I hate that word. They wanted to see pro wrestling on a Saturday night. So you give them their money's worth, then some. And you know, they don't want to see the guy down the street. They want to see a performer. They want to see an athlete. They want to see a wrestler. They want to follow a storyline because for 2 hours they get to free their mind, you know. And that's really what I try to put through to these, you know, young people that, man, you all probably know as well as I do. You get out there and you're working for that money. Nowadays, you're like, well, how do I best spend it? You know, and you take care of everything if you can. And if you got that little bit extra, you know, you get to finally go out and do something on a Saturday night. And some people, you know, it could be if they got younger children, they may have to leave them at home, and they might have to get a setter. But then hopefully, as they get 5 and 6, you know, they come out, they start getting old. We start getting new fans. So now they're 10 or 12, and you're like, yeah, we're recruiting them right in, just like because mom and dad or pops or whoever loved wrestling, you know. And so we got a whole different generation out there.
Yeah,
that was us 40 years ago.
Yeah.
We got hooked on it. Just that's exactly how we got hooked on it.
Yeah, I've been a fan my whole life, man.
Yeah, so, this may be a weird question. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead.
This may be a weird question, but I was noticing that you were coming in '88, and you mentioned Jim Cornette, and you're out in that sort of general area. So, what do you know about the Beckley, West Virginia incident with Cornette and the Midnight Express?
Well, no, I don't know much about that because when I broke in '88, first of all, I always spoke to Bobby Eaton when he come to Huntington or Charleston. Jimmy would just give me the nod or little thing there. I didn't, but Bobby always spoke to me for whatever reason. I broke in for a guy named Rick Newsom up in Kentucky here. And my first show was over in Hayside, Virginia. But it was a lot of outlaw independent mud shows, to be honest with you. I did a couple NWA affiliated shows. That's where I first met Buddy Landell, Jimmy Valiant, Hector Guerrero. But I didn't know much about Beckley, West Virginia. You know, other than what I see on the TV from Charleston or Huntington markets until I got to Smoky Mountain. Of course, that was a regular town. That's where I had my tryout. Jimmy brought me in. I tried against Brian Lee back in this time of year in March of '93, shortly after the blizzard of '93, if y'all remember that. Aging myself there, but I got to go up there, and so I didn't know anything about that much about the incident at that time. You know, just a fan. And I had about 10 or 12 matches, maybe 15. And I was on a show in Pikeville, Kentucky. And I worked against the guy that brought me in, Rick Newsom. And I had been sending out feelers the whole time for wrestling schools, you know. I'd sent one to the Monster Factory. I'd sent one to Memphis. I sent one to a guy in Minnesota who put me in touch with the Malenkos, actually. But someone no-showed the main event. It was Hector Guerrero and Jimmy Valiant. Hector was Lasertron. It was Buddy Landell. I think it was Dutch, but I won't put that on him. Someone else from that Knoxville area didn't show up. And Buddy said, well, put me with that boy right there. And I had the bleached hair like he did. I had a tan. And I was in street clothes because I was just in a street fight, you know, a hardcore match against Rick Newsom, who was a local policeman up there. And so I went out in the ring with Buddy, said, just follow me and listen. And I was up in a ring apron, and Buddy and Hector locked up. And then I saw it, and I was like, oh, God, these guys are professionals. Buddy just reached up and pulled him, and Hector took a bump, and he complained about the mask and this. And then I was like, oh my God, I've been out here killing some guy. He's been killing me, Knuckle Sandwich City, you know. And so I watched him, and he said, tag me. I tagged him. Hector got in, and I just followed him around. He's a little lasertron. He's been doing this, and I follow the gimmick, man. And he gets me in the corner and sticks his finger in my belly button. Place pops like, oh my God. He goes, just listen, kid. And he goes, grab me. I grabbed him. My lockup was probably stiff. And we walked over. He tagged Jimmy, and Boogie come in. He was Boogie Woogie by then. And he goes, hey, brother. And he just started talking to me. And then finally it got to where, he grabbed me around the arm like this. He's holding me behind me. He goes, just catch him, brother. And like that. And Jimmy, I love to death. As he'll tell you, he said, I've known Bobby since he was a teenager. And that's just about right, honestly. And Hector jumped off the top rope, and at the last second, Jimmy let go, and here he comes, just light as a feather, straight down, 1, 2, 3, and there's another, hey, thank you, brother. And I got out, and I followed Buddy to the back. He's throwing chairs and complaining like, you cost us that match, you're a loser. Go home, doing his gimmick. And I'm just going like, I'm befuddled. I'm going, oh, my God. I get in the back, and Buddy's like, thank you. And I go, man, thank you. What do I need to do? He goes, you're green as grass, kid. He said, find someone that can train you. And I said, well, I'm trying to. And then a few months later is when I actually moved down to Tampa, Florida, because I saw how professional those guys were. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to do that, be that smooth. I think I eventually did from things I hear, and I'm proud of that fact. I heard my timing was really good. You can't teach timing. I had good timing. That's come from being an athlete. And a couple of people, this is one of the greatest compliments to me, is people say I never wasted a move in the ring. And I never believed in that. I didn't believe doing this and that. You do the move. And I learned that from Leo Burke up in Canada. And I watched his matches every night for 2 different years. I watched him as a babyface, and I watched him as a heel. And I knew he had been out with the Funks. I knew he had been around out in Calgary. I knew he had been to Japan and Mexico and Puerto Rico. And when I watched them, I wasn't just watching one product. I was watching a world of knowledge, when to do things, when not. And that's where I learned not to waste moves, because there's a rhyme and a reason for everything, And those are things, not to pat myself in the back, but those are things I can teach and show you that you just don't pick up anywhere else, And that's world-class training, if you will. That's what I've been told, and I believe it. 'Cause I know it. I know it in my heart. I really do.
Right. So, I'm curious about something, and I don't know if you can describe it for me too much. I don't want to go behind the curtain of the training, because I know I'm not trying to do that. But what can you tell us about what is it that makes a wrestler have good timing?
I think paying attention in the ring, and that is, I teach a drill that when you go, when you come up, first of all, you go to your knees, and when you go to your knees, you can make eye contact. It's very important to make eye contact. Kevin Sullivan told me one time, he watched one of my seminars, and I think Jimmy Cornette and Kevin Sullivan, 2 of the greatest minds in professional wrestling. And Kevin said to all the students, about 8 people in the ring, he goes, Bobby, and I was always told by Malenko, keep your eyes on your opponent. And even in boxing, they said, protect yourself at all times. To me, it's like a fight. You've got to know where that person's at all times. So to answer your question about timing, and again, what Kevin said was, Bobby, it's so important that people don't teach that to watch your opponent and know where they're at. So what I do is a little drill. When you go to your knees, we come up and we're looking eye to eye. So maybe we've got a spot already planned out, or maybe we're just walking and talking as it may be. But one of us takes a bump. I immediately look down and see where you're at. I see your eyes. I make eye contact that, hey, you just took a tackle off of me. I can't move over here, go there until I know you're okay. When I make eye, because he might have had a concussion, might have accidentally, hurt himself. It could be anything. Thankfully, you don't want that. But I look down, I make sure eye contact. Then I can go to the next spot, and whatever spot we've planned out, or they'll know where I'm at in the ring. No, I'm powdering out, or follow me out. It's all in the eyes most of the time. It's just look at me, have to say anything. If I'm going like this, I'm probably going up. If I'm going like that, I'm probably going down. But you always know where I'm at too. If I'm in the turnbuckle, and if you're in a turnbuckle, we're mirroring each other. So just go like that till we meet in the middle. And I teach that a lot, just a mirror drill. let the veteran lead, and we're turnbuckle to turnbuckle. Now we're middle rope, turnbuckle to turnbuckle, and we slowly get together in the middle. That's just the way I teach it, because that's the way I was taught. And also from playing sports and being an athlete back in the day, things have to come together, if you will. We're going to run a right belly 6, or we're going to do a play number 3 where the big man gets the ball, or whatever sport you're playing. Those just football and basketball references. Track and field. If you're going to high jump or pole vault, or how fast someone's going to hurdle. If that guy's over running 100 in this time, you go, well, I better improve my time. So it's just from that, being around sports my whole life. And being blessed. That's another thing. I can try to teach it to you, and if you pay attention and you do the eye-to-eye thing and know where I'm at all times, we shouldn't have too much of an issue with the timing thing. And then you just back up if you do, like, whoa, hey, now let's re-gauge ourselves here, and we'll come back to that later. Or we missed our spot, we'll keep on moving.
Right.
Hope that answers that question.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is so interesting. But I'm so interested. When we were talking to Brox, me and John have been laughing for a couple of weeks because he was talking about going to wrestling training at 39, I think he said it was, or whatever. And so then me and John have been talking for 2 weeks about how this is our chance. Now we're in our 40s. We said, okay, well, we still got a chance. So we're trying to figure out how to learn commentary or be a manager or something.
Well, come on down, man. We've got I try to help you where I can. That was one of the things I told Brox too about that conversation we had about him just stepping out of the ring or whatever, and then afterwards speaking man to man. That's why I tried to tell him was you're going to have to use this. You understand now. He started to understand these kids are following him. Guys and girls both were following his example. And he couldn't have a lazy day. They're looking up to you. And so, and he had been a fan and he had been to shows. He hadn't really been to an independent show, just a few at that point. And he was like, yeah, this is, and then he went to one, he goes, I want to do that, and I said, this is what's going to be your advantage. You can use this up here, And I said, you ain't got so many bumps on your bump card. I had John Carlisle tell me last week, he said, man, you sure were right about that bump card. I feel like I'm running out. And I said, well, use them wisely, But, that's one of the things is, and if you use your brain and look at Ricky Morton, he's still out there, man, human psychology. Yeah. Of course, he's over, and he knows how to get over. And that's just one example, someone's still out there doing it. It's just, and as Malenko told me before, this is one of the largest ongoing studies of human psychology there is. Really, when you think about it, you look at the fans, man, you've got everyone from, like I said, that 5, 7, 8, 10-year-old kid to, maybe the mayor of your city, to the 2 school teachers down the street to whoever, it draws from everyone, from the taxi driver to or Uber driver, I guess now, to lawyers, to doctors. One of my doctors had passed away several years ago. He's one of the big. I went to school with him, and he's one of the biggest wrestling fans ever, man. And he just loses himself, for wrestling. And we had that in common. And I respect that people that love wrestling, all walks of life, man. I got a couple books, as you know, and we'll promote those in just a minute. But in one of them, I tell a story about running a professional wrestling show inside of a federal prison. And I had worked there as a guard for a couple of years. And have you read Yard Time, the short story?
No, not yet. Anyway, I just found out about it today. I said I just found out about it today. I knew about your 2 books, but I didn't know about Yard Time. I got to find it.
Yeah. Well, it's inside the second book, actually.
Oh,
and then
okay.
It's written as a side book. It's an ebook if you want to download just that chapter, but it's like chapter 5 in the second book. But my point being, go to Bobby Blaze Metal on Amazon. We'll come back to that. Mm-hmm. But Muhammad Ali came to the prison, and there was about 1,200 inmates. This was in March, and he drew about 665 inmates. Well, in October, I ran a professional wrestling show, and we drew about 660. Over half the population that was eligible to come. Only about 800 were probably eligible to come. Some of them were locked down. Some of them have kitchen detail. Wow. So we drew a good number, my point. And out on the basketball court, we did it out on the rec yard. All the whites went to one section. Blacks went to another. Hispanics another. And then just wannabes and nobodies. They all segregated themselves. But see, here's the thing. They did it for Ali. They did it for wrestling. But they were all out there. And they were all, because wrestling, like Ali, wrestling transcends race, creed, religion, sex. It doesn't, discriminate. And people, all walks of life, like they wanted to see Muhammad Ali, they wanted to see professional wrestling. We had all these inmates out there. And for 2 hours, it's like that scene out of Shawshank Redemption. We're up there on top of the roof, and they're tarring it. And that day, they were just normal guys, maybe, just putting a roof on one of their buddies' homes. For at 2 hours, man, them guys, them inmates, they weren't inmates. They were wrestling fans. And I worked the unit at that time, J unit. When I come back at midnight, man, them guys were waiting at the door for me, shaking my hand, telling what a good thing I'd done. And I knew a couple of them were from Tampa, Florida. They were old-time wrestling fans. They committed a crime. I'd seen their jacket, and it wasn't anything violent, but they had committed some crimes and got caught. But they was fans of Malenko's back in the day, and they didn't know, they couldn't understand how a guy from Kentucky, man, knew Malenko and went to Tampa and this and that. So those guys were so thankful. And then about a week later, I got called to the warden's office. That's how I knew those numbers, around about 5 or 6 people different on drawing. And the warden thanked me. And he was like, man, that was one of the really good things you done. He called me Officer Smedley, of course. But yeah, he just said, man, that was good. Because we drew all those inmates for that couple hours. And no one else drew like that except for Ali, because when you've got a captive audience, if you will, you bring gospel group in, some of your religious inmates can go. You bring a rap group in, country rap, country music, the basketball teams that we used to go out there and play outside to bring in them teams. We used to bring guys from Marshall and play stuff like that. So, but you only get that one audience, see, that one little. If you like basketball, if you like softball, but wrestling, everyone, didn't matter if they were Asian or Filipinos, Latinos, blacks, gangsters, whatever, they were there, man. And for that 2 hours, so that's my point of that is too, out here in the streets, when you go to wrestling, you can see everyone at a match, man. You can see your neighbor, you can see the closet mayor fan, whoever. I use that reference because Ashland, one of my biggest fans in life, he just passed away here recently, Coach Steve Gilmore. And he was superintendent of the schools. He was also a basketball coach, and he was a mayor of Ashland. But he came to all the wrestling matches. But he was a secret fan. He'd like people know that he was a fan. But he knew, and I knew. See, we had that connection because he knew me. He knew me since I was a young kid. Watching me play sports, and but he followed that wrestling, and we always had that in common. And that's good. But he's a closet fan. He's sitting in the back, But there you. Yeah, he didn't want people to know, like, that's the mayor. He's sitting right there. He went as a fan, That's my point,
Yeah.
So I used to kid him all the time. I said, well, I'll do you a favor. I said, I won't get in politics. You stay out of wrestling.
There you go.
Back when Ventura was making his way up,
right.
A rib between, I'm not going to worry about your politics. I'll vote for you. Come to the matches, You
never want to be governor of Kentucky, Bobby?
No, sir, but I'll tell you this. I am a Kentucky colonel. Andy Bashir bestowed upon me in a great Commonwealth of Kentucky. I am a Kentucky colonel, and I take great pride in that.
Wow.
I think I became a colonel about 2021 or 2022. I can't recall. I'd have to look. I've got my certificate, and I've got a picture of my phone and stuff, too. 21 or 22, so I've been a Kentucky colonel, and that's a great honor to me. So yeah. That's good enough. No aspiration to be mayor, governor, or president. So
congratulations, Bobby. That's awesome, brother.
That is. Thank you kindly.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations.
I was on a podcast, and I was speaking to a gentleman from Australia, and Austin Pierce. And anyway, they had a lot of fans worldwide. Another gentleman from Kentucky, and they had written in and called in about this and about that. And it got to, hey, man, next thing you know, I've been nominated. Next thing you know, I've got the certificate and the letter and this and that, all because of a wrestling fan that was listening to a podcast like yours. They were listening to me speak about 6 o'clock in the morning, our time, so I could do the podcast over there, and someone else was listening to it or saw on YouTube or however it was. That's what happened. One of them things, again, paying it forward, man. Someone in my hometown never took the time to think about, let's recommend you to be a Kentucky Colonel. It took someone from another part. I don't know what part of the state they're from, but they were from Kentucky. And sorry about that. We lost power for 1 second. I might have to call Bubbles in here. I don't see the cord over here. Anyway, so that was a good thing to happen to me. All again as a direct result of me helping someone else out.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have to take a pause for a second. Can I call out and try to get? I don't know how much longer we're going, but I need some bug us in.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
Pause or how it's cord. He's getting a cord.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So while he's getting the cord, you mentioned it a minute ago, Bobby. So I know the two books, Pin Me, Pay Me, and I kicked out on two.
Mm-hmm.
First one was Pin Me, Pay Me, right?
Yes.
How'd that come about?
Yes, sir. Well, Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. How'd that come about? I was when I'd go out somewhere to one of my kids' ball games, or I'd go and watch a sporting event, or I'd go to just someone's house maybe, and they always ask about a story about wrestling. And then I'd end up telling a story, and this one guy totally surprised me. I'd written down a couple old notes here and out. This guy, though, he comes to me and he starts talking about my Dan Severn match. And I started telling him about the two matches I have, the great Dan Severn, a complete gentleman I have nothing but respect for. And he knew a little bit about the MMA at that time. And he wasn't asked for behind the scenes or anything like that. He started talking to me as a fan, and we started interacting about it. And a couple hours went by, and all we talked about was wrestling, just sitting there having a couple beers. I think football was on or something. And anyway, I just started writing down. Before I knew it, I had about 6 short stories. And someone said, man, you should write a book. And I said, well, I'm working on one, believe it or not. And I went to school with this girl that get right in there. We'll get plugged in here, guys.
Hey.
So here we go.
How's that?
Good? Yeah. You good?
Yeah, we're good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
So anyway, this girl, she got a hold of me and she said, I've helped with these books. She was up in Massachusetts. And I knew her from school 20 years before, whatever. And so 2 or 3 Sundays in a row, we'd speak and I'd send her what I had written. And she was like, look, you don't need me for this book. She said, you just keep writing. She goes, I thought I'd have to do editing. I have to do this and that. She goes, what you need to do is get someone to edit it and proofread it. She goes, put your stories, the way you write. And I have a degree in creative writing, whenever it was. She goes, I'm just going to be honest with you. You keep writing. Mm-hmm. And she had sent me a book about a boxer, and she sent me some references and stuff. And totally, that's what I did. I just started writing the stories down every time we was out, and maybe we're somewhere and you ask me about, the Smoky Mountain title run or something like that. I just go home at night and go, hey, you know what? Here's some. So I had a bunch of bullet points too, and I just started writing it. So that's in the first book. I put Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. While I was driving to Lexington, Kentucky, I was traveling down there and had a bunch of notes. My buddy actually driving. And I said, and he's pretty creative. And I said, here's some ideas, man. And I'm just stuck on this. I'm stuck on this. And next thing you know, I had the Hunter S. Thompson quote from there. And I put an apology to him about, what a dog shit rock and roll show is, and put it the right direction, like just change the word with all respect to Hunter S. Thompson. Mm-hmm. So I did a chapter of that. And anyway, I just was like, hell, we just show up at a town, we wrestle, we get paid, and we move on, and then Have Boots Will Travel. You know, that's the old TV show, you know, Western back in the day. So I didn't watch it until it come back out of like Me TV. You know, I remember that name, but again, it's one of those things you're like, it just goes together. And then that I was telling about growing up, you know, being in Baltimore, Maryland until I was about 6, then coming to a little town in Kentucky, Ashton, Kentucky. Then I started doing, you know, independent wrestling. I did, you know, my tour of Smoky Mountain. I did, you know, Breaking at Malenko's, chapter on Smoky Mountain, the Smoky Mountain title, England, Japan, Australia, South Africa. I just done a chapter on each of those places and wrote stories. I had bullet points for, oh yeah, I remember when I was in South Africa, this happened, boom, boom, boom. Then I just started filling in with paragraphs. Had a book before I knew it, you know. And then that came out in 2013, I do believe. And then I dedicated that to the great Professor Boris Malenko, and you know, dedicated to my parents and family and stuff. And again, I was having some health issues mentally, and you know, just didn't want to be around people. I had my boys, and I was like, this is my family, and this is it, you know. And so I just was writing and take care of my family, you know. And then the second book come about. People were still asking me, how about this? How about that? And one of the things is, you know, like my hair. People compliment on my hair. And I said, well, hell, I guess for my age at 50 years old, I said, I guess I'm aging gracefully. So I just start writing about, okay, this person, that person. And the biggest thing about that, I bring it up, is because I just had a haircut the other day. You can't really tell. You know? And like, that's what I told the lady. Dee Dee's my hairstylist. I said, she goes, how you want it done today? I said, just like I haven't had a haircut. So when I leave, no one knows but me and you. Cut off the dead ends, thin it out, and we'll go. And it takes about 5 minutes. I had the Grandpa Munster eyebrows, and they was up over my glasses. I'd shaved that night before, and I said, thank goodness I'm getting my haircut tomorrow, because she does that. But point being, people that wrote me, that whether I knew them or whether I didn't, and there was guys my age, they say, you know what I hated about your book? And I thought, well, wait a minute, you're doing it fair and honest for you. And they're like, you still got hair and I'm balding. And stuff like that. And there's a rib, you know. And I was like, oh, well, I've been blessed, you know, what can I say? And so, again, those stories, just I'd be somewhere and someone say, hey, man, aren't you that wrestler guy? And then this is what happened, too. Now, this is a shoot. And believe me, everything actually happened because I was there, like I said in the second book. But I had people, I'd go through a beer store, and they say, hey, man, I go through the drive-through McDonald's. Hey, man, and didn't you wrestle Ric Flair? And I'd say, no. And they said, no, I saw you. And then one guy's like, hey, man, you know how many times I wrestled Ric Flair and the Macho Man? You're like, well, the guy at the store and people write me on the internet, hey, aren't you? Because I'm not on Facebook. If you want to follow me on Instagram at Bobby Blaze 744 and Twitter or X at Bobby Blaze 744. But, you know, people would ask me, hey, man, I saw you against Randy Savage, the Macho Man. And I'd go, no. And what it was, I told my brother and my best friend, I said, man, these people are convinced when I'm out somewhere, that's what they tell me. They said, Bob, here's the thing. That's their reality. Don't run it. He said, because they remember you as a wrestler. Now, their time and frame of reference time frames all match up. And they said, just agree and go on. And I had to start doing that because I was running their dream. You know, I was running their reality. And so what happened was I had this one guy, he kept getting a hold of me saying he was in the front row when I wrestled the Macho Man. And at first I had already written him prior to that talk. And this has gone on for probably 6-8 months. And I said, man, he named a town, Paintsville, Kentucky. Macho Man had been there. I had been there. 2 different time frames, though. Finally, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to start listening to this guy's story. This is his reality. And he goes, man, I know you had to know I was there. And I go, okay, yeah, probably. This guy just kept getting himself worked up. But finally, he says to me, he goes, I know you remember me. He said, because I was at the show. I was the one in the front row. Now, this is his story. I was in the front row, and this is how I kicked that on to the educational wrestler come about. So he says, I was at that show. He goes, I was the one cussing the Macho Man out. And he said, he was beating you up pretty bad. And I said, yeah, I think I remember that. Well, that's common, you know. He goes, but I'm the one that stood up and threw a snow cone at the Macho Man. And I popped. I said, oh, man, that was you? And he said, yeah, that was me. He goes, I knew you remember me. He goes, remember, man? He goes, the Macho Man jumped out. He goes, I ran out in front of the school building. You all was doing a fundraiser for my school that I had went to. And he goes, I was hiding in the bushes. And I go, man, I remember you. Dude, it made that. See, that's his. So it made their reality, see. And I was like, yeah, I remember you, buddy. You're the one that stood up through the snow cone at the Macho Man.
Right.
But that made his day, probably made his life, truth to be known. And, but that's how, because stories, get fabricated, and, like, don't let the truth stand in the way of a good yarn,
right.
kind of thing. So I just let them believe that and go on, because you probably do know this as fans or as men. You know how hard it is to sit there and argue with someone, and they're right. They're convincing you that you wrestled Ric Flair on TV, and you're going, no. But you know what? You go, man. And you know what I do now? I say, did I win that time? They go, no, I think he beat you. I go, man. I had that one match. And they go, that one match, you were so close. I thought you were going to win. Okay, give me faith.
That's
you can't
it.
argue, right?
Right.
Let them believe it.
Bobby believes the dream maker.
That's it, man. That's it. don't crush their dreams, So, yeah, that's or their reality of wrestling.
Right.
That one match they saw me at against the Macho Man or Ric Flair, and for some reason, it's always those two guys, and that's cool with me. That's cool with me. And I did have a run-in with the Macho Man. And that's in my first book. Man, we was in Minnesota, and I just used the toilet, and it was flooded. It wasn't urine, it was just water. It was flooded. And you know how you pull a bathroom door, and it pushes from the outside, but you're pulling inside. Well, I just washed my hands, and I stepped to that door. Right when I grabbed the handle, it swung in, because here comes a Macho Man pushing. And I said, watch out, because of the water. It was slick. I go, watch out. And he started sliding, and I had the door, and he was sliding off the door. So we about done a double knockout. And I go, watch out, brother, water leak. He goes, oh, yeah. Oh, that wouldn't have been pretty. The Macho Man, the Bobby Blaze, done a double down in the bathroom. And he started talking. And, of course, I always spoke to him and stuff, and I've been a fan of his since the old ICW days. I went back to where I was sitting at. There was Scott and Steve Armstrong was down in that corner, and they could see right where I come out of the bathroom. It had been his locker room. And Scotty goes, hey, man, everything all right? You and Macho good? And I go, brother, I started laughing. I turned my head like this. I don't know when you're going to come out of the bathroom. I go, man, we about done a double knockout. I said, man, that floor is flooded. And I go, right when I pulled the door, he was pushing. I said, we just saved each other a bump. And they said, oh, okay. He kind of got loud. And I was like, yeah, but it was all good, So that's my Macho Man match. I'm sure some kid threw an ice cream in there or stone and made it melt. Anyway.
Oh my gosh!
So that's how it was. Anyway, go to Bobby Blaze Smedley on Amazon. You can get either book. They're both available in print edition and available for downloads on Kindle or the Kindle app, which is free. And like I said, the yard time is actually in the second book I kicked out on too, The Educational Wrestler. And it's also sold as an ebook. I think it's like $2.99 for, that story about the prison. And there's a couple others. Christmas story that took place before I was in wrestling. That little 99-cent download, some other stuff on there. I've entered some contests, per writers groups and things, try some different genres. So pay no attention to stuff outside of wrestling if you don't want to, know about other stuff outside of wrestling. The main two things, though, are pay me, have boots with travel. And I kicked out on The Educational Wrestler. Just get them. You see me at a personal appearance, and if you bought one, I'll be more than glad to autograph it for anyone out there. No charge for an autograph, of course, ever. And then, again, you can hit me up at Bobby Blaze, 744 football, basketball numbers there on Twitter, X, and Instagram. And I like the interaction there. To me, Twitter's kind of changed a little bit here in the last little bit. I used to be so much more interactive on there. But now it seems like people get a hold of me through Instagram, and that's fine because I love talking to the fans. Because if it wasn't for the fans, we wouldn't have a business, right?
Right.
So,
yeah,
awesome.
It's absolutely true. Well, Bobby, listen.
Like, yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, and also get the opportunity to do things like this. You get to meet the fans, and they get to hear you and react, and hopefully get a reaction out of them that, hey, man, I heard you say this in this promo or this podcast, or what do you, I love that too, because it gives us a way to connect. And I guess the word is maybe stay relevant, which I never really cared about because I never really thought about it that much until, like I said, after I got sick. Pre-COVID and had a little condition, and I was like blessed or fortunate to get out of that condition health-wise, and I said I'm gonna give back, and that's what I'm doing, and that's all I'm doing is trying to pay it forward, man.
Well, we're glad you are, Bobby.
Thank you. I'm glad.
It's absolutely great having you on here, Bobby. I know it's about 7:00, and we're going to get you off so you can do your schooling, but hopefully I can convince you to come back because I want to hear a bunch of Smoky Mountain Wrestling stories and some stories from Japan and all that other stuff one day, if that's all right with you.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just the tip of the iceberg, man. I know we were going somewhere before Brock came in about that trip to North Carolina. There's some stories still to be told. I'll be more than glad to share those from, like I said, Smoky Mountain up in Japan, wherever you want to hear one from. Hell, I was in a riot in South Africa. There's all kinds of stuff still left unturned here. We'll just turn another page,
That's it.
Well, let me tell you, Bobby, you made little Bob and little John's day here, man.
You are not kidding. You have no idea, Bobby.
I appreciate it too. I'm glad we had a good time. I apologize for the delayed, but we got it all done, and that's the main thing. And look here, hit me up on social media. Well, you have my direct number. You can send me anything that you want me to promote out there on this podcast. Let me know so I can retweet it or put it to my Instagram story. Anything that might help get the eyes on you all and on the interview, okay?
I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, Bobby. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a great night, guys.
You too, Bobby.
All right, Bobby. Thank you, buddy.
Nice meeting you. See you at the matches, wrestling fans.